Hi, I'm Paul Perdue, and I am the infrastructure nerd.
And I'm Mary Jo Boyd, a legal technologist. You know, when a vendor refunds you a check for purchases that you made, whether it's Office Max for supplies that they're refunding you for, or Bureau of Workers' Comp sends you a refund check, we have a really good way to record that with a journal entry.
But what if they just give you a credit that you're going to use against future purchases?
There's also a way in Accounts Payable that we can record credit memos.
A credit memo. Can you show us how to do that?
I can. So we're going to begin by talking about why you would need a credit memo. First off, when a vendor refunds you money and they send you a check, we would go ahead and just deposit that check back into our operating account. We would make a journal entry to account for that, and we're good. But if a vendor issues you a credit to be applied to future invoices, we have to do that a little bit differently. So in my example, we're going to use Nelco as our vendor. And what we're going to do is we're going to say we purchase checks from Nelco and they're going to give us a refund, and then we're going to go ahead and apply that to future statements. So the first thing that we have to do in Accounts Payable is we have to go into the vendor and we have to make sure that our one invoice per check is unchecked. And the reason is we don't want to cut one check for each individual invoice and have multiple checks to one vendor. We want to put that credit together with another invoice. So we want one check that is going to have multiple invoices on it. So we want to uncheck this box here. I'm going to go into my invoice manual checks, and I have a check order out here for $129.85. Now I voided a check earlier, so this is kind of a test data in here. That's why I have a negative one in here now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that on that check for $129.85, they messed something up and they're going to give me a $50 credit for the future. Now think of this in terms to as how it could apply to your practice. If you have a vendor that you are writing multiple invoices to for witness fees or for medical record requests or things like that, and they end up refunding that money back to you in the form of a credit memo, we want to be able to select that later to apply to different invoices, and we want to pick which invoice we want to apply it to. So by entering in a negative invoice for Nelco, I'm going to come in here and do a negative $50 invoice. And for this one, I've got my credit for my order for checks. I kind of did a little pre-work here. Same bank account that I wrote the original check out for. Same general ledger account, office supplies. Save it and save it. I'm not going to bill clients, so I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to go in and create a new invoice. When I reorder those checks, this is going to be my new order for my checks that I wanted. And we'll say that this one is for $175. Okay, and this is just entering my regular invoice. And again, you might have multiples in here. You may have several that you've been entering in later for whatever reason that you're getting the credit for. Same general ledger account, I'm going to save it. And I'm going to save again, not bill the client, and get out. Now I've got two invoices out there, one for my credit and one for my new order of my checks. I want to apply the $50 credit and not have to pay that full $175. I just want to check for $125. So when I go into my print checks, I want to make sure that I have my select invoices to print checkbox checked. As default, that's one of our best practices. We always check that and we save it so that whenever that's the default coming in, we have the select invoices so we don't accidentally print multiple checks when we don't want to. I'm going to go ahead and just choose my vendor for Nelco. Now you could choose all of them, just have them out there and it would let you see all of the vendors and all of the checks, but for our purposes for the test, I'm just going to choose Nelco, so we'll just see the two and not have to weed through a bunch of test data in here. I'm going to say okay, and for this instance, I'm just going to preview it. You would go ahead and you would print this and it will print your check the right way. But for me, I want you to be able to see it on the screen, so I'm going to preview it. Now I have my two invoices out here. I've got my credit memo and I have my 175. So I'm going to make sure that they are both checked. Now, if this were my big list of all of my invoices that I needed to do, I would clear all and just check my 2 or 3 or whichever one I want to pay and apply the invoice to. Say okay. My check number is there, and say okay here. Now I've got my $50 credit. Apparently my vendor had a deduction set up in there. I didn't see that in there. So that's reducing it there. But that would reduce my bill down and cut the check for the amount minus that credit memo. So this is what I would send to them. This is what I would have to apply. If there were other invoices, they could be listed, and I'm applying that to there. You can even make sure that you put the correct invoice number in when you put your credit in so that you're using it against the new invoice that you're going to put out. You can do that as well. Once that's printed, you can go ahead and send it, and then that has cleared out and applied that credit memo to that vendor that you had the credit on. It will post to your general ledger if you're integrating with general ledger, and it will go ahead and offset the proper account, in this case office supplies, so that will be automatic. So there you have it, how to create credit memos in Accounts Payable.
That's just one more way that we can help you worry less
and practice more.